Hi everyone, we're going to do a quick little tutorial here on these little flower designs. They look really complicated, but they're very simple to do. So the first thing that we're going to do, I'm going to put a base of Options Imperial Red, and I'm going to go ahead and just paint it on. It doesn't need to be neat. These are nice little Christmas designs that you can do based on the color. So we're just covering the nail. And I'm going to go ahead and cure that in my LED light for 30 seconds. You can use whatever it is that you have. You can use gel polish. I prefer to use the potted gels. It's a little bit thicker, so for this design I find it works a little bit better, but it's really whatever you're comfortable with. And I'm just going to pick a little bit more up on my brush because I kind of want it wet as well. So while that's curing, on a little palette, I'm going to take a little bit of my titanium white paint. And we're just going to put a little bit on a palette here. Not too much. And I'm going to take a little bit of my Shine On because I want to thin it, but I'm not going to mix it because, again, it doesn't really need to be super neat. Okay, so my color is ready, and I'm just going to apply a little bit more because, like I said, I would like it wet. And the reason I want it wet is because I want to blend. So I'm going to use my 3D art brush here. It has a nice point to it. You can use whatever brush you have. You can even use a striping brush if that's what you have. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and dip in to my mixture, and I'm picking up a little bit of both. And we're going to start painting out the leaves. And I'm going to do them on the side. And they don't need to be super neat, and you're just kind of going over it again. So the idea is to get a good blend of the colors, and so you just go over them a few times until you're kind of happy with how they look. And you can overlap a little bit. So I just kind of keep going over and over it in until I like how it looks. And we're going to put one more over here. So again, it doesn't look super neat. I have 4 petals there, as you can see, and we're going to go ahead and cure that. And so while that's curing, I'm going to clean off my palette, move it aside, and I'm going to pull out a super fine striping brush. And what I'm going to use is I'm going to use Gel Play Line It in black. You can also use paint, gel paint, if you have gel paint. You can use gel polish. I find gel polish moves around a little bit too much for this design, but if that's what you have, you can definitely use it. Okay, so we're going to go for our center. So we're going to pick up some paint. And again, definitely not neat, and you want a nice generous amount. So this now becomes the center of your flower. Okay, so just a dot in the center. We're going to clean off our brush so that there's not a whole lot of paint left on there. I just wiped it on the side of the jar, and we're just going to make tiny little lines. Okay, so I'm just going to go along, and I'm going to start in the center of the dot, and I'm going to pull out. So this is how I'm going to get product on my brush. So we're just going out, and we're just doing little fine lines, but we're always pulling from our dollop out. Okay. And you want longer lines, you want shorter lines, you just kind of want little wisps. So we're doing a really light touch with our brush. You don't want your brush to go down. Okay, so we don't want to see our brush fan down like this. Okay, we want the tip a light stroke so that the brush isn't bending as we paint our little wisps. And like I say, make them longer, pull them right out and right up. It just adds to the flower. Okay, and once you're happy with how that looks, we're going to go and cure that. So again, this is like a super easy little design that you can do. And on my little palette here, I just used different colors. The inside was always done with white, and it was just my base that was a little bit different. And then we just dressed it up with some glitter in here on some of them. Some of them I used glitter paint. Whatever you have to dress it up a little bit. So we're going to go back to our white gel. And what we're going to do is highlight the petals a little bit. So again, we're just going to pick up a little bit of paint. Again, we don't want our brush to fan out. We just want a nice light stroke. And we're just going to go around. And it just makes them stand out a little bit. You don't have to outline the whole one if you don't want to. You can just outline a few areas just to bring it out a little bit. And we're going to do a little bit there. This one we're going to bring it around. So all we're doing is really bringing a little bit more definition to our petals. Okay, and then again with our brush, and you don't want this super neat, you want a little bit more paint on your brush this time, and we're just going to dot the center. You want some dots bigger, some smaller. So just random little dots on your flower. Okay, I'm going to put that down, and I'm going to pull out just a little bit of sparkle. And I think I'm going to use my Gel Play Galaxy Dazzle just because it's an amazing glitter. As you can see, it has multicolors, and I don't want to use a lot. I just want to use a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit. You can also cure this before you add the glitter, but I'm not going to. And so I'm just going to pick up little spots here, and I'm just going to add it where I think it needs just a little bit more shine. And you can put some on your flower as well, because this would be more of a Christmassy design because I used reds. You want that little bit of sparkle just to dress it up a little bit. Unless you have one of those clients who doesn't like sparkle. Most of them like it, but you have the odd one. And so again, I'm just putting very little. I don't want a lot. And I'm going to go ahead and cure that. And while that's curing, I'm going to show you another neat little technique that you can do for Christmas. So I'm just going to use black on, and I am going to paint a black tip. What we're going to do is bubbles. This is all the rage all over the internet, and everyone is asking how to do it, how to do it, how to do it. There's a couple little tricks, and I'll show you how to do that in this little video. So I'm going to go ahead and cure that one. Our flower design here is finished. It's just ready for top coat. So I'm going to go ahead and top coat that. So again, looks really complicated, but it's super, super easy to do. So I'm going to cure that. And I've got one more tip here that I'm going to put some black over top of. Okay. So I did 2 tips that I covered with black on. You can use any black that you have. Okay. So then the next thing that I'm going to do, we have these neat little, it's a top coat shifter in Luxio. And so it's going to change colors. This one is called Luminous Pearl. And I'm just going to cover the nail with that. So it just gives it a nice shimmer. And I'm going to go ahead and cure that one. And while that's curing, on a little palette, I'm going to take some Luxio and I'm going to mix some white in it. You want a little bit more top coat than white. And what we want is a no dispersion layer top coat. So I'm going to use my Shine On. And I want a generous amount of top coat here. So more top coat than white. And you're going to pick up any brush that you have. And we're just going to do a little nothing fancy, nothing spectacular. I've got a little too much white in there, so I'm going to add a little bit more of my top coat, and I want to thin it out a little bit more. Just want a little more transparent. Okay. So then in a water bottle, I have just mixed actually hand soap and regular water from the tap, and I'm just giving it a really good shake. Now you have to move quickly when you're doing this because the bubbles are going to start to pop right away. So I'm going to take a little scoop. I just use a little cuticle pusher, and we're going to just place our bubbles all along our little design, and we're going to throw that into the light. We're going to let that cure. So while that one is curing, my other one is ready here, and I'm going to coat this tip with our Shine On No Dispersion layer. I find it's the one that works the absolute best for doing this little bubble design. It is the most effective. So some bubbles bust quicker than others. I find hand soap works a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and cure that in my light. My other one is ready. So you can see what it has done. It's kind of cured in this little bubbly design. And we're just going to take our brush and wipe off the excess bubbles that didn't cure. You can pat it with a paper towel, but I find that sometimes you get little bits of it that stick in there. Okay, so you can see the texture, and you can see where I've thinned it out a little bit more over here, which is kind of what I like more than the solid white. So for this one here, I can top coat this because it's got a very bumpy texture and not everyone likes that. So I'm going to go ahead with my dispersion, my shine on, and I'm just going to push it in the bubbles. We're just going to go back and forth. You don't want to do it too much, and if you use a matte top coat, you'll find that the design disappears. This one here seems to be the only way that you can top coat this without it disappearing on you. But you really want to push it into the bubbles so that you see the bubbles. It kind of brings them out a little bit more. And I'm going to do 2 coats of this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cure this. My other one here is ready. And sometimes if I want a little more texture, I'll do this twice. It just really all depends. So we're just going to pat that a little bit. So that's done with just bubbles on top, and I'm going to leave that texture because if I top coat this one here, my bubble design is going to disappear. And you can even do this twice. You can do another layer of your top coat and you can throw more bubbles on it if you so like. You can even do this over chrome. So if you're doing this over chrome powder, you're going to do your chrome powder design, you're going to top coat it, cure it, then you're going to put a coat of top coat on and your bubbles. So that one is good to go. This one here, we're just going to put one more coat of shine on, and this time I can go a little bit thicker because my bubble design is already set inside with the first one, and so you're kind of just going to use it as a level it out a little bit so you don't have any sharp edges. Okay, I've got one little area there when I turn it sideways that's a little bit bumpy, so I'm just going to smooth that out with my top coat because I can do that. And I'm going to put it upside down so it goes exactly where I want it to before I cure it. And I'm going to go ahead and pop that into the light, and that's going to cure for 30 seconds. So here we have the little designs that we have done today, my other flower. And so again, this one here, I think I used Luxio Bespoke underneath and Always Polar and my Shine On top coat. You can use any kind of gel paint you wish to highlight around the petals. And here is our finished little bubble design. So there we have 3 super cute little designs that you can do.